Today, we're diving into the story of a company that grew so fast it almost breaks the laws of physics. Welcome to Scale Bits, where we tell inspiring short stories of rapid growth. And believe me, today's story is an absolute monster. We're talking about a company that is completely rewriting the rules, and their journey is an incredible one. All right, let's just jump right in. Look at that number, 500 million. Now you might be thinking, is that revenue? Users? Nope, that's over 500 million AI model calls that the AI code editor, Cursor, handles every single day. That's just an insane measure of how deeply this tool is plugged into the way developers work. But yeah, what about the money? Well, the money side of things is maybe even crazier. Cursor went from basically zero to $300 million in annual recurring revenue in just 2 years. I mean, let that sink in for a second. That is not just fast. It's one of the most explosive, just mind-bending growth stories in the history of startups. So, of course, that brings up the big question, right? How on earth did they do it? How did 4 grads from MIT go from a dorm room to building a tool that is fundamentally changing how software gets made and do it all in what feels like the blink of an eye? Well, their story, believe it or not, starts with a pretty big mistake. Yeah, this rocket ship, it did not have a perfect launch. Not even close. In fact, their first big idea was in an industry they knew absolutely nothing about. Co-founder Michael Truell calls it youthful naivete, and that's probably the best way to put it. The team originally set out to build an AI copilot for mechanical engineers. You know why? Because they thought the coding space was just too crowded, too competitive. The only problem? None of them were mechanical engineers. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. It was a total mismatch. On one side, you've got CAD software, an area where, let's be honest, their passion was pretty low, and their expertise was, well, even lower. And then on the other side, you have coding, the thing they lived, breathed, and absolutely loved. They were trying to jam a square peg into a round hole, and it just wasn't working. Michael Truell even joked about it later. He said they should have just gone undercover, gotten jobs as mechanical engineers for a few weeks to figure out what was going on. It's a funny idea, but it really gets at the huge lesson they learned. You simply cannot build a world-class product for a customer you don't deeply, truly understand. So after months of just spinning their wheels, getting nowhere, they hit a wall. It was a massive turning point. They had to ditch the safe idea and just follow their gut, right back to the world they actually knew and loved. And this pivot back to coding, it wasn't just some calculated business move. It was them basically admitting that building a company is way too hard to spend your life working on something you're not completely obsessed with. They were coders. That's who they were. This was them coming home. Okay, so what gave them the confidence to jump into such a crowded market? It really came down to this simple philosophy they had. They called it following the line. The line was this predictable exponential improvement of AI models that you could see in all the research. They just made a huge bet that AI was going to get way, way better, and they started planning for a future that, honestly, most people weren't even thinking about yet. All right, so now they're in the right market, they've got the passion, but so did dozens of other companies. What were the really non-obvious choices they made that put Cursor on a totally different path to the moon? This was probably their single most important decision. They completely rejected the easy path, which would have been to just build a simple extension for an existing editor. Instead, they took the much, much harder road of building an entire code editor from scratch. Now, at the time, this seemed insane, but it gave them the one thing they needed more than anything: total control. Control to reinvent the entire programming experience from the ground up. And the next thing? They completely ignored all the usual vanity metrics. Forget daily active users. Their North Star, the only thing they cared about, was the paid power user. That's someone who was using the AI features 4 or 5 days a week and actually paying for it. This laser focus meant they were building something with real, sticky value, not just a cool demo you try once and forget. And here's the kicker. That insane growth didn't happen overnight. Not at all. They spent almost a whole year kind of wandering in the wilderness, just iterating with a small group of users, grinding it out day after day without that lightning-in-a-bottle moment. It's such a crucial reminder that even these hyper-growth stories have a tough, gritty phase you have to push through. Okay, so how can we bottle this up? How can we systematize all this success? Let's try to distill their entire journey into an actionable playbook that we can all learn from. So here are the 5 core principles that really stand out. First, build for yourself. It keeps you honest and grounded in what users actually need. Second, taste is irreplaceable. We'll talk more about that, but it's about knowing what to build. Third, hire slowly, then fast. Go incredibly slow at first to build a powerhouse core team. Fourth, innovate faster than the big guys. And 5, my favorite, never forget that fast is fun. Speed is a feature in itself.
That first point, building for themselves, what developers call dogfooding, that was their secret weapon. It saved them from the temptation of just building flashy demos. Because they were using Cursor to build Cursor every single day, they were forced to solve their own real, painful problems, not just create cool features that look good but fall apart under pressure.
And this idea of taste is so important. The team believes it's the most valuable skill for any engineer going forward. It's about graduating from just being an implementer who translates a list of specs into code. It's about becoming a logic designer, someone who has a deep, intuitive feel for the product and can actually shape its soul.
Their hiring strategy was just as thoughtful. The advice was to go painfully slow to hire your first 10 people. Why? Because that initial team, if you get it right, becomes your company's cultural immune system. They not only rocket you forward, but they also naturally keep the bar incredibly high for every single person who joins after them. Okay, so let's zoom out for the final piece of this puzzle. And this one is pretty mind-bending. For the Cursor team, this isn't just about making coding a little bit faster. It's about creating what comes after code. This right here, this is their ultimate mission. They want to move all of us beyond the complex, kind of weird syntax of today's programming languages and into a brand new era. An era where we can build incredible software just by describing what we want. A future where creating something is as simple and as direct as just having an idea. And that really brings us to the big takeaway here. We are standing at the dawn of a completely new paradigm. The entire way we create things is about to be fundamentally transformed. So as we wrap this up, there's really only one question left. In the world that comes next, what will you build?